Hey guys, Crystal here, Willow Valley Farm, Health-Inspired Homestead. You can hear the mixer in the background. I apologize for that. I have some dough going for bagels, but I figured I would take some time to make a quick little video on the different wheat berries that I use and why I use wheat berries and grind my flour. So starting off, with making bread and bagels and all of our bread products from scratch, I did not start with grinding my own wheat. I started with using just organic, all-purpose and whole grain flours, got used to the methods of making the bread before I added another step. I am a firm believer in organics and trying to um, limit and reduce toxin and chemical and pesticide exposure wherever we can. And so um, that's just a big part of our lifestyle. Um, so when I moved out of using just pre-ground flours and into the whole grains, which are called wheat berries, I don't know why, but they're wheat berries. It was mainly because we had a stock of wheat berries put away, hard red wheat. It's kind of the most versatile. We had that put away for food storage, and I needed to start using that and rotating it out of our stock. And so I was like, I got to figure out how to use this. And it's also way more nutritionally valuable. So store flowers, they have to take out like vitamin E and put in different types of preservatives just so it doesn't go rancid on the shelf. Um, so for us, the nutritional value of our food is important. Getting all of the fibers and nutrients from the grains themselves instead of having parts of it taken out. That's also very important. And so just trying to learn how to work with the grains in their original form and learn how to bake with them has been and still is a very big learning curve. But my basic go-to grains are soft white wheat, and then we have two hard wheats. There's a hard red and a hard white. And then einkorn, which is kind of this unicorn of grain and a little bit more expensive to work with. So I'll chat about that one in a little bit. But soft white wheat is going to be a very mild, versatile grain for making anything that isn't going to use yeast to rise. So pancakes, biscuits, brownies, cookies, if you're thickening a gravy or a sauce, if you're making noodles, pretty much any of your basic baking, you can use soft white flour. It doesn't have the structure and protein content to have it rise very well, so it is not suited for breads and bagels. I probably wouldn't even use it for sourdough pretzels or cinnamon rolls or anything that you need any type of rise on. I would not use the soft white, but the soft white is great for everything else. We love this one in our Belgian waffles. Super delicious. Very mild flavor. It doesn't have that heavy, I'm eating a whole grain, whole wheat product. So we really like the soft white for that. The hard red wheat is going to be the next to give you that higher gluten, better protein structure. It will rise better with proper use. However, this is going to have the strongest whole wheat flavor, that sort of nutty, dense, heavy flavor that when you kind of stereotypically think about when you're going to eat something whole grain. That's what you're tasting is is hard red wheat. I don't really ever use straight up hard red wheat just because it is an acquired flavor and texture, and it is heavier. I have done a sandwich loaf with all hard red, and it is good. It's really good, and it's soft, and it turns out fairly lofty. But it's still not my favorite. It is a very dark loaf of bread and a little bit more dense than others. But I do love using 50% hard red with either 50% einkorn or hard white. Now, when you move into the einkorn and the hard white absorbs liquid differently than the hard red. Doesn't have quite as much of the protein and loftiness as and kind of the rise ability as the hard red, but the hard red and hard white complement each other very well if you mix in like a 50-50 or 60-40 kind of ratio. The hard white brings down that earthy, nutty, grainy whole wheat flavor. It brings it down just a little bit to be slightly more palatable. And then if I'm looking to really reduce gluten content but have the good flavor and still keep all the whole grains, I'll use einkorn. And einkorn is a specialty grain. It's the only non-hybridized wheat berry, so it has gluten, but it has a lot less than the hybridized wheats. It has a really mild, sweet flavor. It is significantly more expensive than the others, so I usually use this in a combination of other grains. And then one other tool that I sometimes use, give me one second while I turn the timer off, is if I'm trying to take out a little bit of the bran to make something a little softer and not quite as earthy and grainy. Occasionally I'll sift out some of the bran, but I don't use a very fine mesh at all. Just a straight up sifter, which is very coarse, so it only takes out a small amount of the bran. So it can soften things like pancakes and waffles just a little bit. It really depends on where you're at in your whole grain journey, and I find that the more you eat the whole grains and the more you get used to the texture and the flavors, you just kind of appreciate it. You do have to adjust expectations a little bit, although I am still on the pursuit of a really good artisan whole grain fresh milled loaf. That's a challenge. That has been a little bit harder for me to adjust my expectations because they are not the typical artisan loaf, Pinterest worthy, Instagram worthy loaves that rise really high and have this beautiful crust and nice open crumb with the holes. It's not really you can achieve it, but it's very difficult, and so you kind of have to change your expectations a little bit. Sometimes working with the whole grains, just because you are getting that much more of the nutrition, and so that's where we go with our food, and so we just will really try to embrace all of the hardiness of the grains. But anyway, so these are most of the grains that you'll see me using in my different recipes. If you have any questions about them, throw them in the comments. I'll try to remember to put links in there, or at least list the grains that I use. And then just follow along to see some of the recipes that I use on the regular. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.